We are live Hip Hop Daily Studios, and it's something different. We bringing something to you late night post game after all of the Atlanta Hawks game. This is our Sideline Stories. I'm your host Terrell Thomas, as always at the Live Hip Hop Daily Studios. Now, as I mentioned, it's something new. We here on the late night, but the crew is all here. We just left Phillips Arena. It was a wonderful night in Phillips Arena, although our Atlanta Hawks were not able to capture their first win in tonight's home opener. They lost tonight to the Denver Nuggets 105-100, so we're going to dive all into that, give you stats on the night. But tonight was also highlighted by Run the Jewels coming into the building. Run the Jewels was in the building. Killer Mike and LP came through. They spoke with us earlier. We'll play you a few clips from that momentarily. They also performed during halftime and post-game, giving the crowd what they wanted to see with some of their Run the Jewels classics. That was a dope thing as well. But one of the things that really sparked us off at Phillips Arena tonight was the addition of the courtside club. This year, Phillips Arena has a club courtside, something that no other team, no other franchise in the NBA has. And it was kind of unique out there tonight, H. It was a sold-out event tonight. It was a sellout, over 16,000 people in the building. But it didn't seem like the club was popping too much. Did you notice that, Danny Digital? Did you see the club popping over there and whatnot? It looked to be a little dry. It looks very nice. They have a big Hawks logo in the middle of it. It's over there to the right of the visitors bench. So if you come down to Phillips Arena, it's at the right of the visitors bench. It was a very dope look. And as I mentioned, it was also tonight was the return of Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap, former Atlanta Hawk, he decided to leave Atlanta in free agency this year, moving on and going to the Denver Nuggets. This was our first time actually seeing Paul Millsap back in Phillips Arena. It was in a different jersey, so we'll break that down and talk about that as well. But as I mentioned, tonight was the Hawks' first night. It was the season opener. This was the latest season opener for any NBA team, being as though they were having renovations to Phillips Arena. They opened up on the road. Their first 5 home games were on the road. They started that off last Wednesday, the 18th. That was in Dallas, picking up a win. And last night, they ended the road trip with a tough loss at the United Center to the Chicago Bulls. But first and foremost, we're going to break down. We're going to talk about what happened in today's game. Before we do that, we're going to let you check out these post-game interviews. We had the chance, of course, to speak with Coach Bud, to speak with Kent Bazemore and rookie John Collins on tonight's game, the highs and lows that can be taken from tonight's game. John Collins spoke about playing in front of the Hawks fans for his first time, and then we also spoke about the upcoming matchup Sunday, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So before we dive into the actual stats of tonight's game, check out these post-game recaps.
I think a game where neither team could really get any separation, kind of tight throughout. We had a few chances. I just felt like the rebounding in the first half, the 16 points, I think, on second chance points, hurt us there. But credit to Denver. They made enough plays down the stretch. Got the big shot from Jokic, kind of that one from the elbow or from the top of the key, felt like that was kind of the dagger. But the guys were competing, to come back home after a 5-game road trip, on a back-to-back, the guys are giving a lot. And, I think we can learn, we can get better from tonight. We'll look at the film and see where we can be smarter and where we can be better.
Coach, despite the loss tonight, how did it feel to be back in Phillips Arena?
Yeah, it's great to be back home. It's been a long time. Very excited, hopefully I think the fans are feeling, the change and trying to make the experience better for everybody, players and fans. And it's great to be home in front of our home crowd.
That was like the Millsap you were familiar with last year at the end of the career there?
Yeah, no, he's a great player. Ton of respect for him and what he does, and makes winning plays and a couple finishes in the paint, and so he's just he's a good player. A lot of respect for him.
How did you think Dennis looked with the ankle?
Yeah, I thought Dennis on the ankle was pretty good. I played him a little more than I wanted to or intended to, and he never wants to come out. So I thought considering he hasn't played for I guess 5, 6, 7 days, whatever it is, and coming off a pretty good sprain, it's impressive what he did. He wanted to be there for his teammates, and he's a tough guy for sure.
I know you've been happy with the effort. You guys have been in every game going to the fourth quarter. Do you sense any frustration over the inability to finish these games?
Well, I think there's the appropriate amount of frustration. I think it's to be expected. We're all competitive. We want to find a way to finish. We want to find a way to win a game. But I don't think it's, across the line or in a bad place. I think we all just want to be better. Coaches, start with myself and players, and can we be better and find a way to, just make a couple more plays and put us in a better position to close the game.
We're seeing Victoria tonight with the end of last moments.
Yeah, no, it's,
Good. Test one.
Let me make sure you
Test
hear Drake.
Mic test 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2. Mic test.
You
one.
hear?
All
Yeah,
right.
you good.
All right. So good news. We have the home opener, not the result you obviously wanted to see.
We're battling, man. It's tough. We travel over 5,000 miles and I got to open on the back-to-back. So, and we came from Chicago, lost an hour's sleep. So it's been a tough little stretch, but we doing the best we can. That's all you can really ask for. And the guys are fighting, trying to make the right plays, and we're growing. So that's the encouraging thing about it.
Don't mean this any disrespect to our bigs, but we know what Paul did for 4 years, and we know about Jokic. So what about how good their bigs are?
I'm pretty good. Jokic is a very good young player, kind of a magician out there. Some of the stuff he does, his court vision is very good, and I think he's underrated as one of the better bigs in the NBA. Bright future ahead of him, and Paul. We've seen what he does. It's a good 1-2 punch for them, and they got a lot of young guards that can make plays and make shots, and it's a good team over there. And Coach Malone, he was coaching my rookie year in Golden State, so I kind of have a history too.
You're a veteran here in this locker room here, so we think about what's going on the other side in this particular matchup for you, Bays. Talk to me just a little bit about the fact that they've got a go-to guy in Paul or other options there to score the ball. We get it to 5 or 6 points late, but they have consistent scoring.
We molded and do the same thing. We kind of, the roles are kind of being figured out now. And, I think we do a good job of, sharing the wealth down the stretch. And it just so happens, some of those shots don't fall for Paul. Then what? We got a ton of guys that are always ready and that make plays down the stretch for one another. And that's the beauty of our team. You never know who it's going to be. So it's not something you can, as an opponent, focus on.
You get Dennis back.
Obviously, it's a little late for our home opener, but it's good to get started. Good to be home.
Also, you had a matchup tonight against a former Hawk and Paul Millsap tonight. What was it like going up against him?
It's kind of cool to see, him come back into Phillips. Obviously, watching him play a lot here and then getting a warm welcome coming back into Atlanta. So it's cool to see him play.
Next game is Sunday, another home game. You'll be welcoming Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. Talk to me about that matchup and what you can expect.
Yeah, his nickname is very warranted, Freak. It's been off to a crazy start. Try to slow him down as much as possible, but obviously he's been on the tear so far, so it's going to be a point of emphasis to try to get the ball out of his hands.
5-game road trip to start your career. With some of the advice you got from some of the older guys in here on how to handle that?
Yes, George, like you said, all the advice was just treat like a professional. Obviously coming off from college, so it's a whole new different atmosphere, going to the games and try to prepare, just in different mindsets and different ways of preparation, taking care of your body, just becoming a professional is the biggest thing I learned.
Friend of the show, Malcolm Delaney, first game back in Atlanta. Talk to me about tonight's action.
It's good, man. We played tough. We just got to figure out how to win some games. We're doing a good job. We just got to put full quarters together.
Talk to me about what you're seeing with your younger teammate, John Collins. Talk to me about what you're seeing in his play so far in the young season.
He's playing good. He's been doing well. He's still learning. It's tough for him playing against some vets. Just some little things he needs to learn. But he's active. He plays hard, and he does everything we ask.
How was it to see Paul back in the building? Not in the Hawks jersey today, but playing with the Denver Nuggets. How was it to see him as an opponent this go around?
It was weird at first, but this is a profession. I look at it as a business, so I don't really. It's not too different to me. I don't really look at that deep, but he's a friend, so just playing against a friend makes you more competitive. But he's happy where he's at, and we wish him nothing but the best.
Right back here on Sunday, going up against Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Talk to me about that matchup.
It's gonna be tough. He's probably the hottest player in the league right now. Having an MVP caliber season, even though it's still early, but I think at the end of the day, he's one of the best players in the league, and he'll be up for MVP. But we just got to come out and find a way to get a win. I think we played good against him last year. Limit what he can do and just try to outplay him.
So that was just our brief post-game interviews with Coach Bud, with John Collins and Kent Bazemore. As you see, they spoke on tonight's matchup, what we can expect from the matchup Sunday, and what the Hawks will look like moving forward. Now, as we break down tonight's game and tonight's matchup, the Hawks now move on to a record of 1-5. They'll be looking to bounce back, as I mentioned, on Sunday against Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks, but that will be a tough challenge. Tonight, the leading scorer for our Atlanta Hawks was Dennis Schroeder in his first game back in action. He finished the game shooting tonight 7 for 16 with 20 points. He went 4 for 4 from the line and also dished out 6 assists. Our second leading scorer on the night was second-year wingman Taurean Prince, who's been extremely impressive so far in limited action. He's a starter now, and tonight he shot 8 for 14 from the field, finishing with 19 points, also grabbing 7 rebounds, and he seems to look a lot more comfortable. We didn't play the clip for you, but after the game, I was able to speak with Taurean and ask him. He's shooting very effectively at a high percentage from behind the three-point line so far to start off the season, so we spoke on that. He gave us a little bit of insight on how that was something he's been working on all off-season, how he's been working with trainers post-games and after games as well to make sure that if teams want to give him the open shot, that he's able to knock that down. I've also been impressed so far with the play of Marco Bellinelli off of the bench. Tonight, Bellinelli finished with 15 points, and he's continued to have a hot hand from behind the three-point line coming off the bench for the young Atlanta Hawks. It also was a good night for John Collins. John Collins, this was his first night in action at Phillips Arena, and it's been kind of difficult for the young man as far as versatility and the matchups that he's had so far. One night he's going up against Dirk Nowitzki, the next night he's going up against Dwight Howard, and on a night like tonight he's going up against former Hawk Paul Millsap. So it's been very good to see his progression and his development on the defensive end, being able to be a lot more versatile out there for our Atlanta Hawks. Now, I also must give a lot of love tonight to Dwayne Dedmon. Dwayne Dedmon finished the game 4 for 9 tonight with 13 points, but he got the crowd, including Dikembe Mutombo, out of his seat early in the game with a big, powerful dunk to kind of let cats know that he is here, making his statement as a new member of our Atlanta Hawks. Coming home today, as we mentioned, Paul Millsap returning to Phillips Arena. He seemed to be a little nervous at times. He finished the game 6 for 13, including missing some shots, some key free throws at the end of the game, which almost left the door open for the Atlanta Hawks to make a comeback. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do so. Once again, he finished going 6 for 13 with 16 points on the night. He also had just one assist and 6 rebounds. Gary Harris, the newly signed, he signed a long-term 4-year deal with the Nuggets. He finished with 18 points. And on the bench, off the bench, Will Barton finished with 18 points, and Emmanuel Mudiay finished with 16 points. So it was a good night, once again, like I said, for the Hawks as an environment, but it wasn't a good night for them to pick up a win. They almost, in the second half, I guess you could kind of say, this was another one of those games that was a tale of two halves for our Atlanta Hawks. They were outscored in the third period 22-19 by the Nuggets, and then in the fourth quarter, they were outscored 30-29. We needed a little bit more from our Hawks to get the win, and we thought with about 20 seconds left, quite honestly, Ace, that they were going to have a chance to get the win. Taurean Prince had a pretty good look at a three-point shot in the corner that he wasn't able to knock down, and that kind of wrapped things up for the young Hawks, letting us know that this would be the end of what they had coming up. Now we're going to take another brief break. Let you check out Run the Jewels. Killer Mike and LP were in the building, as I mentioned, and they spoke with us briefly during the press conference. I actually spoke with Killer Mike about what it meant to be performing at Phillips Arena and what it means to be a native of Atlanta and to be an entrepreneur right in Phillips Arena with his swag shop coming to Phillips Arena very soon. So check out this interview, and we'll be right back here. Sideline Stories on Live Hip Hop Daily TV.
Does the city care about the Hawks? You think there's a chance they would become some favorites?
I think so. I think, the Hawks, like any other team, we got to get a superstar here. We got to win. And I think the Hawks are years ahead of other teams in thinking local, though. I mean, when you look at the fact that Zach Brown has a bar and restaurant, that, Michael Render, not even Killer Mike, and his wife have a successful local barbershop, get an opportunity to be on the front porch of a major coliseum. I think that even before you pull the superstar here, what you're doing is making sure the city loves the team. And the team seems to be reciprocating with the city. I look at the Hawks sale, like with 3 or 4 in terms of merchandise. They're in the top 10 in merchandise, yet they aren't a winning team. So people love Atlanta. We love repping the Hawks. Dominique is a god here, so we want to see him celebrated. So we support the shrine he sits on, and that's the Atlanta Hawks.
What are your thoughts on the Hawks, their transition that they're going through as the new young team? I know you just mentioned having a superstar.
You know, I love the Hawks like my uncle loved the Falcons. You know what I'm saying? You know how, like, I don't care what you say, you can't talk bad against the Falcons because your uncle's grown up with them. You know, I saw Dominique get robbed in the slam dunk contest. I saw the Celtics snatch it away from us twice in the 80s, you know, so I just, as an old man who's watching, like, I want to see my guys win. So Schroeder's a particular favorite because I've seen him come here and he looks weirdly like my youngest son. So even though we tour and I can't catch every game and watch it, you know, I'm cheering for my guys. I still don't like it when they lose. I still cheer when they win. And, you know, again, I think that the Atlanta Hawks are going to become one of the perennial winners on the East Coast and in the league. All we need is some time, get a couple stars here. I know why superstars going to come here, too. It's Atlanta. And why it's going to let them. You know what I'm saying? but we're going to get the guy.
That Mike said about sports.
We're going to get a guy. We're going to get a squad. We're going to win. We're going to build with the guys we have.
What do you think about Millsap? How you gonna feel seeing him in a different uniform tonight, being as though he was the staple, the anchor for the Hawks for such a long time?
You just clap and bite your lip. You know, you just because you don't want to see someone you cheer for do bad. Like you take baseball for instance. It's like I hate the Braves lost Jason Hayward. Like hate is really an understatement. I cried. But Jason went up and he won one with Chicago, and I celebrate that. And I'm just hoping he brings that money back and sponsors baseball leagues in Atlanta so we can grow some more local stars that never won a league. So maybe for basketball, I think I don't wish it bad on any player, but I want to see us win. And I want to see the Hawks win everything. I want to see us win world championship. I want to see us sell more merchandise than anyone else. I want to see our Phillips Arena be better than the other arena because I take a lot of pride in Atlanta. And this team has been a part of the Atlanta experience. When I was a kid, when Ted Turner owned the Hawks, if you got good grades, you could come to games for free. And you know, as a kid, when you can sit in the stand, it's a 4-seat. And when you do it because you use your mind. And I think that this team has been that then, and I think with their local outpour now, they're doing similar things. And I'd like to see those kind of programs remain. So as long as I can help the team and help the local people unite, I'm gonna keep doing it.
So Killer Mike with phone.
So that was Killer Mike and LP pretty much talking about what it meant to be performing at Phillips Arena as Run the Jewels did their thing at halftime and postgame of today's 105-100 Atlanta Hawks loss to the Denver Nuggets. So as we look forward to Sunday's matchup will be against Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks, possibly the hottest team with the hottest player in the NBA. And some positive notes and some positive points that we can look forward to moving forward. Once again, Marco Bellinelli has been deadly from behind the three-point line. He's been the most efficient Atlanta Hawks so far to kick off the year. So if that continues off the bench, that scoring speed will be very great and needed for the Bucks, who are a pretty good three-point shooting team as they come into Phillips Arena. Also, which will be a pretty key matchup, will be how our bigs are able to control the paint against the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo is 6'11", but he plays the point guard position. So he's normally bringing the ball up the court, and he's able to create and find what's going on for the Bucks, who also have pretty good bigs themselves with the young talent of Thornmaker, and we'll see what Jabari Parker has when he's able to come back to play as well. Our young Hawks, once again, the play of Dennis Schroeder will be key as he'll be going up against Atlanta or Georgia native, I guess I have to say, Malcolm Brogdon, who won the Rookie of the Year last year. It'll be very interesting to see what that matchup is as Dennis looks forward to taking on the Bucks as well. So once again, as we wrap up the Hawks business for tonight, they lost tonight 105-100, moving on to a record of 1-5. It's been a week since they got a win, so hopefully they'll find a way to get a win on Sunday. But I don't know, H. I don't know if things will be looking well for them. Now it's time to go on a little road trip. We're gonna do a little road tripping and take a look around the league, take a look around the NBA and see what's going on across the league. Tonight, Houston took on the Charlotte Hornets in Charlotte. Houston picked up a big win, 109-93. Houston moved on to a record of 5-1, while the Charlotte Hornets moved on to a record of 2-3. Now, what was big for the Rockets tonight was the play of James Harden. James Harden picked up his first triple-double of the year, finishing the game with 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists. Something else that was very key to the Rockets, I call the Rockets the baby Warriors. Seems like they're doing everything that the Warriors do. They play like the Warriors, and they actually made NBA history tonight. In the first half of action against the Charlotte Hornets, the Rockets attempted 32 32 3-point shots. You remember I was telling you, Ace, they don't even look to drive the ball anymore or do any layups. It's dish out, drive into the paint, and dish out to one of the shooters to make a 3-point shot. So it'll be interesting to see if the Rockets can keep up this momentum. But as it stands right now, they're currently 5-1. James Harden picked up his first triple-double of the year, 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 11 assists as they beat the Charlotte Hornets 109-93. Then in what was a shocker to many people, which was a shocker, is the play of the Orlando Magic. We must tip our hat, H, to the play of the Orlando Magic. We seen them beat the Cleveland Cavaliers within this last week. And now the Orlando Magic have moved on to a record of 4-1 after they defeated the San Antonio Spurs tonight, 114-87. You heard that right. The Magic defeated the Spurs tonight, 114-87. Now, this is the best start that the Orlando Magic have had since the 2011-2012 NBA seasons. And many are wondering with this key start, can the Magic maybe make the playoffs? What are you thinking, Ace? Could you see the Orlando Magic in the postseason so far? The East is weak. They're looking pretty good to kick the year off. So what are your thoughts on what they may be able to do? They're currently the top team in the Eastern Conference. It's early, brother. I mean, I hear you talking about injuries over there. The Magic are pretty young, and I like Frank Vogel. I like the coach he had over there. I think that he kind of got the raw end of the deal as the coach in Indiana as things started to kind of go downhill in Indiana. The Magic at one point, though, H, actually had a 36-point lead. As we see, they won the game by 26 points, but they actually at one point had a 36-point lead. Former San Antonio Spurs and newly acquired Orlando Magic star Jonathan Simmons finished the game with 17 points. Aaron Gordon, who had a career-high 41 points the other night, finished the game with 16 points tonight. So it's pretty good, pretty effective by everybody on the Orlando Magic. They were looking pretty good. They shot 60% through the first 3 quarters. So they were playing like a team on a mission, I guess you could say, as things went on tonight. Then, H, we got to give a big up to your boys. We got to give a big up to your New York Knicks. Your New York Knicks got their first win of the season, moving on to a record of 1-3. They had a game. It was the Battle of New York tonight. The Brooklyn Nets came into town. The Knicks won the game tonight 107-86. The one thing that I think is pretty dope, you got to give a big shout out to your man Porzingis. Porzingis has become the first New York Knick since Patrick Ewing to have at least 100 points and 30 rebounds total in his first 4 games. So I know we do a lot of talking off air. H, for those of you who don't know, our producer is a native of New York, and he loves to come in here talking about, yo, son, you see what my Knicks did last night, B? They did X, Y, and Z. And with Carmelo not being there right now, we've been giving him hell about those New York Knicks. But they looked pretty good tonight. Porzingis finished with 30 points on 13 for 24 shooting on the night and 9 rebounds. Not a double-double, but nearly a double-double. Got to show some love to Enes Kanter. He finished the game with 12 points tonight, and Courtney Lee came through with a big 13 points. Newly acquired forward sharpshooter Doug McDermott, he was pretty efficient tonight for your Knicks as well, H, finishing the game with 12 points. Big win once again for the New York Knicks, 107-86. We'll see what the Knicks are able to do. If they're able to pick up some momentum and keep things going. Tim Hardaway Jr. is continuing to struggle, though. I actually thought Timmy was going to go up there and turn up this year when he picked up that big contract. But he's struggling out there right now, and I don't know how things are going to turn around for him. He shot 4 for 12 from the field and finished the game with just 11 points in 36 minutes. So he's getting the time out there on the court. He's getting the looks on the court as well. But things just aren't turning out the way that he would like them to right now. And as we look around live in the NBA right now, we take a live look in the NBA. The Golden State Warriors are struggling right now. They're struggling right now. The Golden State Warriors stand on the 3-1 Washington Wizards. Of course, the Wizards suffered their first loss in Kylie earlier in the week to Lonzo Ball and the LA Lakers, but they're looking to right the ship right now as they're currently beating the Warriors 67-53. The Wizards are up on the Warriors right now at halftime, 67-53. And then our Los Angeles Lakers that we just mentioned a moment ago, they're in action right now as well. Big shout out to Big Baller Brand Zone Zoe. Today is his birthday. Shout out to Lonzo Ball. Today is his birthday. On his 20th birthday, the Lakers are taking a 51-45 lead into the half. They're taking a 55-41 lead into the half. H, it's been a great night in basketball. It's been a great night in basketball. We'll be back here at the desk on Sunday as our Atlanta Hawks will be looking to rebound. They'll be looking to bounce back into action. Tomorrow night, October 28th, we'll have a few games across the league. You'll have the Cleveland Cavaliers headed to the Big Easy to take on Boogie Cousins and the New Orleans Pelicans. That game is at 8 o'clock. We'll also have the Miami Heat hosting Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics. That game is also at 8 o'clock. The Chicago Bulls will be hosting Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, and the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. The Memphis Grizzlies will be hosting James Harden and the Houston Rockets, who will be looking to keep their 2-game winning streak alive. That game will be at 8 o'clock as well. The new-look Philadelphia 76ers, who recently picked up their first win in Detroit, then suffered a tough loss to James Harden and the Rockets just the other night. They'll be back in action. They'll be taking on rookie Dennis Smith Jr. in the Dallas Mavericks. And then Zoe and the boys will be back in action. The Lakers will be in action taking on the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake City at 9 o'clock. The Phoenix Suns are in action. Eric Bledsoe is still on the roster. I'm hearing a lot of things. The Timberwolves are interested in him. The Milwaukee Bucks are interested in him. Your Knicks are interested in him. The Miami Heat are interested in him. There are a lot of teams whose names have been circling around the wagon to possibly pick up Eric Bledsoe, so we'll keep you up to date on that. They'll be taking on, this will be a very dope matchup, Devin Booker, who still plays for the Suns, against Dame Lillard. They'll be taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. That'll be a dope matchup. And then the undefeated LA Clippers. I must say, Ace, they've been a surprise team to me so far in the NBA. Blake Griffin is playing like an MVP as well. We haven't given him a lot of love and a lot of mention, but he's playing well. He had a game-winning shot the other night against Portland to help the Clippers move on to a record of 4-0. They'll be taking on the Detroit Pistons. What are your thoughts on the Clippers so far this year, man?
They got something to prove, man. Something to prove.
It just always seems like once playoff time comes around, though, that's when the buck stops short with them. It always seems like that.
It's a new day, no Chris Paul, so they got something to prove, and that's why they getting busy like they getting busy.
It'll be very interesting to see. Our Hawks will be back in action on Sunday the 29th. It'll be the first game on Sunday. Once again, Giannis and the 3-2 Milwaukee Bucks will be in the building to take on John Collins, Dennis Schroeder, and our 1-5 Atlanta Hawks will be back here at the desk following that game. Be about 6:30, 7 o'clock p.m. right here on www.livehiphopdaily.tv. Make sure you stay tuned to everything that's going on here at the studio. We have a little bit of everything for you: music, fashion, sports, and all. I'm your host, Terrell Thomas. This was the first edition of Sideline Stories. Make sure you stay tuned to Live Hip Hop Daily Sideline Stories for all of your Atlanta Hawks updates and full NBA coverage. Peace and blessings, and have a great night.